There's a morning coming this year when your phone will fill with the same 13 letters, happy birthday, typed by people who needed a notification to remember. And some of you will read them, set the phone face down, and go to work like it's any other Tuesday. No cake, no candles, no dinner you didn't want anyway. If that's you, people have probably called you joyless. But the wiring underneath is much stranger, and it starts with a song written for a kindergarten classroom. Start with the assumption everyone makes, that celebrating your birthday is ancient, that humans have always done it. They haven't. For most of history, the person who treated their birthday like a normal day wasn't the odd one out. They were everyone. A peasant in medieval Europe usually had no idea what day they'd been born. No certificate existed. At best, a priest had scratched a baptism date into a church ledger, and the ledger stayed at the church. Ask a farmer his age and you'd get a shrug, or a guess anchored to a famine or a war. Kings got feasts, pharaohs got feasts. The other 99% got a day of work that looked exactly like the day before it. Because how do you celebrate a date nobody ever wrote down? Then the machines arrived. Through the 1800s, cheap clocks and pocket watches spread into ordinary houses, while factories, streetcars, and trains began running on schedules people had to obey to get paid. Once your day was measured, your life got measured too. Schools started sorting children into grades by age. Doctors began judging bodies against age charts. A historian who studied this shift reached for a train image. Suddenly, everyone could tell whether your life was running on time, and so could you. The party itself came from children. Families in Germany had started holding a small festival for a child's birthday, with a cake and candles matching the child's age, plus one extra candle for the year ahead. The candles weren't decoration at first. Families believed a child was unusually exposed to bad luck on the day itself. So a small flame stood guard over the turning of the year until the cake was eaten. That ritual crossed the ocean, fused with the new age-keeping, and by the middle of the 1800s, ordinary middle-class kids were getting birthday parties for the first time in human history. Governments finished the job later. In America, it took until the 1930s for every state to record births at all, and until the 1940s for most people to hold a birth certificate. So the tradition you feel guilty about skipping is roughly as old as the light bulb, which raises the real question. If the party is that new, what is it doing to the people at the center of it? In Switzerland, researchers pulled the death records of nearly 2.5 million people across 40 years and lined each date of death up against each date of birth. Deaths should scatter evenly across the calendar. So why did they pile up on one square? People turned out to be almost 14% more likely to die on their own birthday than on any other day of the year. Past age 60, the excess climbed to 18%. Heart attacks spiked on the day, strokes spiked. Among men, fatal falls rose sharply on the one square of the calendar with their name on it. Why would a celebration turn dangerous? Some of it is mechanical. More driving, more drinking, a plate stacked higher than on any other night of the year. But the researchers reached for an older phrase, the anniversary reaction. The date itself presses on the body. Your heart doesn't know the balloons are friendly. It only registers that the stress arrived on schedule. In that data, the deadliest day of an average year was the one with candles on it, which means the people who feel a low hum of dread as the date approaches aren't imagining things, and they aren't defective. They're picking up a signal the cake was designed to drown out, because underneath the frosting, a birthday is an audit. Researchers at a business school in Philadelphia tracked gym visits and internet searches for the word diet and found both spiked right after landmark dates: New Year's, new semesters, and birthdays. Their explanation is worth picturing. Landmark dates chop your life into accounting periods, the way a filing cabinet chops paper into drawers. On the morning after, last year's failures get filed under a previous self, a slightly different person you no longer have to answer for, and a clean folder opens for the person you're about to be. That sounds liberating, and sometimes it is, but a fresh folder only opens after a review. The old self gets closed, the new self gets opened, and somewhere in between, the ledger comes out. How far along were you supposed to be by now? Who's already ahead of you? When the number gets big enough, the audit gets loud. 2 psychologists combed through records of first-time marathon runners and found that people whose age ended in 9 showed up almost 50% more often than chance allows. 39 is when you sign up to run 26 miles, chasing proof the decade wasn't wasted. Giant surveys across dozens of countries show the same pattern. As people approach a new decade, they report hunting hardest for meaning in their lives. The birthday doubles as an annual court date where you testify about yourself. So the person who waves the whole thing off is often declining the audit, not the cake. A day with no party is also a day with no verdict, but the ledger only explains half of them. For the other half, the problem was never the ledger at all. It was the chair. The one you sit in while a room sings at you, slightly out of key, for 40 seconds while you decide what to do with your face. There's no verse written for you, nothing to do with your hands, no job except being looked at until the flames go out. Why does 40 seconds of singing feel like an hour? Researchers at a university in New York sent students into a crowded room wearing an embarrassing t-shirt, then asked them to guess how many people had noticed it. The students guessed about half the room. The real number was under a quarter. The finding got a name: the spotlight effect. Your brain runs a camera pointed at yourself and assumes everyone else is watching the feed. Most days, that spotlight is imaginary. On your birthday, it's real, and it's scheduled. Stack one more cost on top. Commanded joy. A birthday is the rare day that arrives with an emotional script attached. You will be delighted, publicly, on cue, about the passage of time. For someone wired private, performing the delight costs more than the attention pays. Skipping it isn't sadness. Often it's accuracy. Watch what quiet birthday people do with their settings, and you can see all of this in one gesture. Somewhere in their app sits a toggle for who can see their birth date, and they've switched it off. The wall of greetings never forms. The office never learns which week to buy the sheet cake. It looks like hiding, but it works more like soundproofing. The audit still happens if they choose to hold one, but it happens with the doors closed. None of this means the date means nothing to the people who ignore it. So what do they do instead? Many mark it the way humans marked survival for 100,000 years before calendars, quietly and on their own terms. A good meal and a long walk, maybe one phone call that matters. The year still turned. Nobody had to watch them receive it. And a few skip even that, because for them the strangest gift the day can offer is a stretch of hours when nothing is expected of them at all. The one square on the calendar they get to leave blank on purpose. And the song. In 1893, two sisters in Louisville, Kentucky, both kindergarten teachers, published a little melody for children to sing at the start of the school day. They called it Good Morning to All. Somebody later swapped in new words, and the classroom greeting became the most recognized song in the English language. The anthem of the modern birthday was never about birthdays at all. Borrowed tune, borrowed candles. A ritual stitched together inside a single century and sold to you as eternal. So when that morning comes, and your phone fills with those 13 letters, and you set it face down and head to work, that isn't someone who forgot how to feel joy. It's someone spending the day the way nearly every human who ever lived spent it. The party is the invention. The normal day was always the original.